Now we will turn up the noise level a little bit and move from the world of sausage to the world of vroom vroom and talk about Harley Davidson. Harley Davidson literally on bended knee begged for relief 6 or 7 years ago and got it from Washington when Honda, Kawasaki, etc. were eating their lunch, to put it mildly. And most of you probably remember the news about a year ago when Harley, in an unprecedented move, probably in the history of humankind, asked to have their protective relief removed a year early. They have turned back the Honda threat. And moreover, which is bizarre, when you go into the Harley Davidson plant in York now, you will find Harley Davidson USA teaching classes on quality improvement to the leading industrial companies in the United States of America who are lined up to get in. You talk about a turnaround, that is a turnaround.
There is nothing in the two-wheeled world quite like the Harley-Davidson hogs on parade. The Harleys are the biggest, shiniest, glossiest cycles in captivity. Harley owners are the most loyal of the loyal. Who else would puff out their chest and call themselves hogs for Harley owners groups? They've stuck by Harley, suffered with Harley, made Harley part of their lives into this 9th decade of Harley-Davidson motorcycles.
It's an anemic little machine, really. Just a skinny little bicycle with a simple gas engine on it. In 1903, Harley-Davidson, in fact, made its first handful of these bikes. For decades, Harley-Davidson and many other motorcycle makers made tens of thousands of machines. At one point, in fact, there were actually 150 motorcycle makers in the United States. Well, no longer. With the exception of a handful of tinkerers, Harley-Davidson is the only motorcycle maker left in America today. But it's taken a revolution in this company to keep it alive in the face of Japanese competition. The Japanese machines were better and they were cheaper. And most Harleys in the late 1970s and early 80s wheezed, spat, sputtered, leaked oil, and nearly shattered the loyalty of even the most devoted Harley hogs.
Hear it from the people who make the machines.
It used to be you could see a Harley or walk into a dealership and think, oh, there's another piece of junk sitting.
Hear it from Executive Vice President Tom Gelb.
It used to be standard to walk into any of our dealerships where Harley-Davidsons were on the floor, display floor, and see a piece of cardboard underneath the engine and transmission.
On the showroom floor?
On the showroom floor, cardboard so the oil wouldn't drip on the floor.
It looked for a while as though this museum was going to become a monument to a dead company and a dead machine, with maybe a Latin sign tacked up on the front of it which would have said, Harleiensis extinctus.
But up out of the red ink comes Harley, with machines that work just fine and don't leak oil either, and a new spirit of leadership that bubbles through the production line, middle management, and the front office. It begins with Vaughn Beals, the chairman of the board. Beals and his wife Eleanor hop on a Harley whenever they get the chance. They hobnob with the hogs and the grease monkeys who each year ride into Daytona, Florida for Motorcycle Week.
Custom. Custom.
The Harley turnaround was inspired from the top and has taken root at the bottom.
You would go to a foreman and tell them about the problem that you're having, and they would tell you to run it anyway. I refused to run it that way because I knew it wasn't right. So I would go to a foreman, and they would have to approve it. The foreman would get together and say, we'll run it anyway.
We put that to the men who were supervisors at the time, forcing production whether the motorcycles were good or not. Don Lefevre.
Get the numbers. That was prevalent back at that time, yes.
Lefevre was telling workers to shove bikes out the door.
You're right. You're absolutely correct. It has been quite a challenge to us to see the quality of the product improve to where it is today.
Through the early 80s, Chairman Vaughn Beals watched the Suzukis and Hondas and Kawasaki's steal the Harley market.
While our product, the quality had gone down, and we've been focusing on quantity rather than quality, the Japanese came to town with a higher quality product of contemporary design at a lower price.
What did you do, literally?
We went through the culture routine. We went through the robot routine. And we went through the low wage rate routine, and none of those were the answers. And after you exhausted all the other alternatives, you decided, hey, it must be me.
And the Vaughn Beal story is more like the Stayer story than it is like the Carrigan story, so it's another good news story for you and I. That is to say, it's not somebody who had it in their genes. It's somebody who came to it. Vaughn Beals is not a philosopher priest. Vaughn Beals just did the analysis, and there was no room left to blame anybody else except himself. And so then they just got down to it on the basis of pragmatism as opposed to the basis of morality or philosophical belief. And they changed the systems.
So Harley looked into its own way of doing things. First, it started listening to its workers, seeking their advice. Now, workers are eagerly charting and monitoring their own quality output. Like Ben Carter here, who's checking all his chrome parts for the slightest imperfections. Next, Harley laid down the law. Quality comes first, period. If workers saw any obstacle to quality, they could go right to the top, which is just what Karen Rohrbaugh did.
I was being told to build a part for a motorcycle that was absolutely junk.
Which means
There
what?
was-
Be specific.
The wiring that goes to a taillight on a motorcycle is trailed up along the inside of the fender, and there's clips that hold the wiring in place. Several of the clips were missing because they weren't spot welded right. And we were told to use these anyway, which would mean the harness would drag on the tire, possibly short out, and you'd have an electrical problem.
So how long did this go on before you...
It went on for 2.5 days, and the supervisor kept saying, use them, it'll be all right. They'll put a piece of tape in there if they have to. And I just got tired of it, and I called Mr. Lucas, and he would call you back and ask you to come over and talk about the problem. He would talk to you first, then he would bring the supervisor in.
With you there still?
Yes, and then I had to leave and the supervisor stayed. But the next day, the problem was corrected.
And you felt comfortable about that? I mean, you didn't feel that somehow or other this person called a supervisor was going to get even?
I felt comfortable with it because I cared about the product that I was making, and I didn't care if he got mad at me or not. I was trying to put out a good quality product, and he didn't care.
I hear these words that I've never heard come from a first-line person. I hear this guy, and he's saying, old 20-year veteran, big, tough mother. They're the kinds they have in motorcycle plants. This guy says, I'm just making a presentation on Friday the President. Excuse me? Can I have your signature on that, please? Like he's talking to his buddy. Well, he says, I'm sweating a little bit because I've got to make a presentation to the president on Friday. Hourly worker making a presentation to what's he doing? This is no big deal. I mean, he's just, it's just sort of a redoing of the part of the line, a $250,000 project that he's proposed, and he's done the numbers, and he's done the analysis, and he's called in the suppliers, and he's gotten alternative supplier bids. He explains the whole thing to me. And then I said, well, don't you think some vendors think you're nuts when you call them and say, hello, I'm from the production line at Harley Davidson? This guy looks at me and says, tough shit.
Then Harley set its sights on one of the colossal mistakes in its York, Pennsylvania plant, a huge Rube Goldberg contraption.
Sometime in the early 70s, a brilliant industrial engineer got the efficiency idea to end all efficiency ideas. They installed this conveyor system, literally miles of conveyor that would carry tons and millions of dollars worth of parts to make motorcycles all around this plant. Well, boy, if they had known then what they know now, I'll tell you, it would have worked out a little bit differently. This has become the biggest overhead joke of all time.
Nobody realized what it would mean if tens of thousands of parts, good parts and bad parts, floated around the ceiling for months. What this meant was the orders from the top that created this mechanical monster completely stifled the quality involvement of workers on the line. They never knew if they were making bad parts until somebody tried to use them, often as long as 6 months later. If they didn't know there were problems, of course, they couldn't correct them. The workers finally helped design a new system that is so simple it could blow your mind.
This little rack that you could knock together in your basement workshop on a weekend doesn't look like the heart of a revolution, but it is. It's part of Harley-Davidson's system called MAN, or Material As Needed. Other companies call it just-in-time inventory management. The way it works is this. When it's time to put a handlebar on one of these machines, the worker who's going to do so comes over and grabs it off this rack. But the key is, as you can see, is that there aren't many handlebars on the rack, just enough to do about 30 minutes worth of work. Now, when they get down to just 2, what he does is walk over here, flip a simple toggle switch, and literally a minute later, a new rack of handlebars arrives.
So the parts these workers make now get used right away. If there's a defect, they hear about it and correct it instantaneously. Management listened to the workers, and now the workers can make better motorcycles.
A title and paper doesn't make the job work. We make the job work, and the management has realized that. So they make us feel, and we are important enough that they can come to us and ask us if there are problems, what can be done to make it better.
When you turn them loose, when they really understand that they've got the ability and can get things done, the power of that is damn near infinite. It takes longer than you like to get to that point. But once it starts, it has its own momentum, and as we may have said earlier, you can't stop it now.
Is there any way this place could go back to the way it was?
I'd hope not.
It could,
but I hope
we're not going to let it.
Let me use the words of Vaughn Beals approximately relative to the equipment in the Harley-Davidson plant. He said, 5 years ago, the machining in this company was the lousiest for any motorcycle company in the world. Stinking, lousy, rotten equipment. He said, today, the machining in this company is the best of any motorcycle company in the world, including our Japanese competitors. And then he said, you know the funny thing? It's the same machines. It's the same old clunky machines, improved 1,000 times by people and teams who own the jobs, own the numbers, own the tools, and own the right to fix a problem instantaneously whenever they come across it. About 4 years ago at Harley-Davidson, in what must be 700, 800 person plant, they had 27 production controllers, which is a standard number for an American plant. 27 production controllers, and as they described it to me, 27 production controllers, and nothing ever went out on time. They have now cut the number of production controllers back modestly from 27 to 1. And now everything goes out on time. Because guess who the production controllers are? The people with the charts on the front line who are responsible for their own destiny. And that is a production control system you can't beat.
Again, let's take a deep breath and look at what went on at Harley-Davidson in York, Pennsylvania. Number 1, the context. Trouble. Financial trouble, Honda trouble. You couldn't ask for more trouble. Number 2, the problem. Quality was at the top of the list, so bad that the employees themselves called it junk. The diagnosis of the problem, they went through all the excuses to no avail, and then they arrived at their conclusion. The problem is us, the management. Number 3, and one more time, the use of teams. The teams were really fanatics about statistics. They understood them, to put it mildly. They were also measurement fanatics about everything. Quality first was the word. Continuous improvement of everything, self-quality inspection. These again were the watchwords from the team. Once more, like Johnsonville, literally no limit to what the teams could do. Number 4, let's take a look at the systems. Just in time, a wonderful story of its effective implementation. But most important, since so many JIT systems have failed around America, Harley understood that to install JIT means, first of all, an attitude that says trust the worker completely. Number 5, pare down that hierarchy. Number 6, like our other stories, results with a capital R. The Honda challenge turned back and the balance sheet in beautiful shape. And number 7, Vaughn Beals' leadership. with the customer with incredible intensity. And then again, remember his language, power from those teams that is damn near infinite, to use his exact words.
The next stop was Winchester, New Hampshire.
911, I'm sure you know this, but all the police officers are covering the intersections, and you probably need to make sure somebody's en route.
Douglas County Radio to all returning units covering the county. 2 Douglasville units are en route to the 1015.
Thank you, sir.
Now 227 on patrol. Now 227 on patrol. 27 Boulevard. 46 keys at the mall, JCPenney, hole 44, red protege. 10-4.
Yeah, Jules got a map, but if she's there, if she'll just get in front of that black car, you'll follow her. Just make it a little easier for her.
All units going to Stone Creek Drive, be advised back in January of this year, 1090 to that same location turned into a 1015, a 1087 window there. Our caller was walking by and noticed this at this time. Before we lost contact, he advised that he did not see him bust the door down, but he went through the door like it was not secure.
Jim, down the numbers.
7135, 7135.
Stone Creek Drive.
That's correct. Sean Crossers of Cynthia Court and Melanie Drive.
10-9, his description.
Light-skinned male wearing a green shirt.
You trying to call me? 7935.
7135.
Clear. Let's stand for one on Bankhead. Is that you in front of me on Dallas? Negative, I'm okay with Springs already. Most of them guys are behind me. Just tell her to be looking for the black car. Canine tag on front. Okay. In the subdivision.
Bear 1608. 1608.
Rose Avenue. On 78. That's correct. On Rose Avenue, on Bankhead. $319, can you advise me any further?
Looking for the numbers now.
Now what's on the numbers?
7135, 7135.
56 Pullman subdivision.
In front or back?
Anything down.
19,1609.
they advise he made entry in the front or the back?
Back door.
Did he see him exit?
We lost contact with him, could never get back in touch.
Douglas County Department 151. A juvenile complaint at 205 West Park Place will be west
7135 Stone Creek.
reference to 10-year-old male out of control.
Gonna be on the west end of Stone Creek Drive.
It's 205. 205.
's out. Right, 18, 16, 10. We got contact with our caller now.
One unit's coming to the back with me and 5-1's got somebody in the front door. Got the front.
So it's 23 out here. Leathersville PD. Okay, Spring.
Simple.
Now on the back door secure, where's your caller, sir?